So, do you like scary movies? I was going to dress up for tonight, but I consulted my kids and they said, "No, you're already scary enough." So I didn't even do a background. I'm trying to soften the reality. Anyway, look, it's great to have you here watching. I really commend your decision to choose this film. It's a real favourite of mine in this genre. So well done. I'm curious to know why you chose Scream, though. What was it? Was it the theme, which I think you can distill down to people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw phones. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong about that. I mean, it's not usual to see comedy in the slasher genre, is it? And I think this film stands the test of time and is kind of important in a way because in 1996, the idea of lamp shading, which is something that is a much better known concept now. People will even say meta-narrative. I prefer lamp shading. Was pretty new to the slasher genre, and it really appealed to a generation. It appealed to me too because I was actually at film school when this film came out, and I can remember going to the kino to see it with a bunch of people who would rather talk about Jean-Luc Godard than Wes Craven, but we all really enjoyed the film, and it was I remember somebody saying it was like if Wes Craven and Mel Brooks went out for a cocktail, this is the film they'd write, because it has this idea that we know that the stories and the characters are just a little bit ridiculous, but you're laughing with us, you're in on the joke, and that's what makes it meta, that's what makes it lampshading. And as I said, it created a franchise. I don't think anybody could have been more surprised than Wes Craven, who, as you know, went to the big haunted house in the sky 5 years ago now, 2015-ish. And, you look back now at his work, and I think this is a landmark work for Wes Craven. This, transformed him from really a marginal slasher filmmaker into somebody who was able to create a genuine Hollywood franchise. So it's interesting in that way too. Kevin Williamson, you probably know Kevin Williamson wrote this film, and he later wrote The Vampire Diaries. Not an insignificant achievement there. And you can see the kind of lineage, you can see the thinking, and that approach to storytelling, which is that they are scary, they're full of jump scares, they're really self-aware, but high in entertainment and bloody and sometimes gory. And this is kind of gory, this film. So what are the tropes of horror generally? What are the things they're making fun of? It's hard to talk about that without spoiling the plot. And so there might actually be somebody at Collarts who hasn't seen this film, but you've got your standard dumb cops, your self-serving media types, and an unbreakable female protagonist. Remember, this was made before Buffy. And, Neve Campbell in all her glory, she had obviously, a really interesting career, but this was a seminal role for her. I'm sure she would agree. The thing about the film that I think is interesting is its relationship to the genre itself is that you need to look at it in terms of morality. So you'll note late in the film, in the denouement of the film, the students talk about morality in horror films and that sinners pay for their sins in these type of films historically. Well, I feel like part of what this film does is say, well, not our generation. And that changed something for the way the viewer saw the film, but also for the style of stories, because I think one of the things I didn't like about the slasher genre in the 50s and 60s is that they had a kind of conservative moral standpoint. You paid for your sins. If you had sex, as they say in the film, I don't want to spoil the story, but there were certain things that you could do that guaranteed you to get killed. And some of them are really, value-laden. I won't go into it, as I said, because I don't want to spoil the film, but it's interesting to think that this film maybe had a role in changing that. So, I commend you again for your choice. I'm not saying it's morally neutral, this film, but it does call out the rules, and that's kind of cool. So Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, the amazing Rose McGowan, who's maybe great as Mark wasn't as an actor. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. And David Arquette, who looks like he's auditioning for a Coen Brothers comedy, but somehow it all holds together, this kind of mad little cocktail of things that is this film. So I hope you enjoy it. It's definitely one of my all-time favourite films of this genre. It is my favourite film in this genre, truthfully. And I suppose I should finish by saying there's a warning. that this film does contain, it's a Wes Craven film, for heaven's sake, it contains extreme gore and violence. It references sexual violence and rape. But if those things trigger you, I would really encourage you to not watch it. It is, I think, extreme gore, particularly in the first act. It also has extreme overacting and a killer soundtrack. So those are things to look out for as well. I think there's going to be some trivia questions. I can't preempt what they are, but hopefully one of them is going to be, what is the Australian connection in this film? There is actually an Australian contribution to this film, and the answer is in your red right hand. So what do I say to finish? But I'll be right back. Enjoy Scream.